Gunslinger Firearms and Gear has a pretty cool rifle to check out today. And before we get started, as you can see, Jeff is sporting some of our new apparel, the Gunslinger Firearms and Gear t-shirts. These will be available for sale here soon, and you can contact us through our Facebook page to order these. So what do we have here, Jeff?
All right, this particular rifle is an Armalite AR-180B. It's the last iteration of a line of rifles that started with the AR-18 back in 1963. It was designed by one of the same guys that designed the AR-15, the M16 family of firearms, Eugene Stoner. He had help from some other designers and so on with the Armalite company. This is a different rifle than the AR-15, and then that this is a short stroke piston driven gun versus the AR-15 M16 family, for the most part, other than piston driven ARs, are direct impingement. So you've got a gas base here, and it goes all the way from a gas tube comes all the way from there all the way back to the action, and that works the action blowback style. Versus this one, you have your gas comes through here, hits a piston, that piston comes back, hits your bolt carrier, and works the action. One thing that's neat about that piston drive in these, there was no need for a buffer tube like there is on the M16 AR-15 family, and that allowed for a folding stock mechanism to be put with the firearm. And if I can get this one to work, that goes around and allows for a more compact piece. So I mean, if you look at the M1 carbine and some guns of the like, you know, shorter, smaller guns were favored by paratroopers or you know, troops that had to get in and out of vehicles a lot, you know, things like that. So it can be used in a more compact place. This particular one did not come with a folding stock mechanism. These weren't available with that because these came out during the Clinton gun ban, and this had this stock on here, and this particular model had that had to be cut off back here and had a Stormworks adapter and an Ace Limited folder put on this gun. It's also got an additional Magpul QD point, sling point back here that's been put on it also. So it's not anywhere close to being the stock piece that it was, and it's truthfully more true to the original design that was the AR-18 and the AR-180. You know, it's not a real, you know, not a real heavy gun. It's not unwieldy. The location of all of the controls is not too bad. Magazine releases in the same places where it is on AR-15 for the most part. You do have a reciprocating bolt handle, so you don't have a charging handle back here, and no need for a forward assist or anything, because I can, you know, control that where you can't do that on an AR-15, which is kind of neat. This particular rifle doesn't have a provision for holding the bolt open from the exterior like a bolt stop, so it is on the inside like I just pushed to get the bolt to stay back to the rear. You know, it breaks down totally different than the AR-15 M16 family rifles, which we'll get into. But you know, you've seen this in movies, I'm sure. Arnold Schwarzenegger used it in the first Terminator movie, but it was the AR-18 that he actually used, a full auto that he used in that movie. So it's been seen in a few movies and so on. I actually have owned a couple of the Armalite AR-180s. I had a Costa Mesa Armalite build that was here in the United States and California, and I actually owned a Howa that was made in Japan. There was also another one made by Sterling in Great Britain. I've not actually owned one of those. I've seen a few of them. I've not owned any of those. My experience was pretty good with the initial AR-180s that I had. The one thing that I saw though is you couldn't use a stock AR-15 magazine. They had their own magazine. It was derived from an AR mag or an M16 mag. You had to make your own cut in it to get it to work. That's something in Armalite, when they brought this one, the AR 180B out, it takes AR magazines, so no need for any custom cuts or anything like that. It will feed out of any AR magazine. Like we've got a 20 rounder, an Armalite 30, I'm sorry, a Thermal 30, Pmag, and a government mag. I mean, as far as the ergonomics and stuff like that, it's not hard to wield. The front sight's a little hard to pick up. It is kind of a minuscule sight compared to what you see with an AR, 15 or M16. The rear sight's a little hinky. It's just got these two protective ears, and it's got a spring inside here, and you have a flip aperture for long and short range shots. And it's got this little mount on top of here. It's kind of at a taper, and you press your mount on top of here and it springs forward. Forward tension on the rear sight base keeps your scope base in place. Maybe in the future there is a mount that I know fits on this. Maybe we can show it with an optic on there, but it's a kind of a unique feature. It's not a Picatinny rail or anything like that. It's a proprietary piece that you have to buy.
So looking at the assembly of the gun here, what's the upper receiver and lower receiver? What are those made of?
Well, on this one here, on the AR 180B, it is a stamped steel and welded upper receiver and a polymer lower receiver. The original would have had another stamped and welded lower receiver on it also, with a separate grip and so on, where this is all kind of molded in together. It's still a pretty durable gun. I've heard on the AR 180B that this is kind of a weak link right here where your pin goes through the receiver to connect the upper and lower, but there is a patch kit, believe it or not, a metal patch kit that you can replace that with. As far as we're going to take this gun down, kind of look at it, and got to advance the bolt forward. We'll take one of these Wolf rounds out of here.
Something else, this appears to have like a compensator that's part of the barrel.
Yeah,
it's not threaded or anything.
Yeah, it was manufactured during the Clinton gun ban, and to have any kind of a
weapons ban.
That's correct. And instead of it having a threaded barrel with a pinned and welded suppressor or whatever on there, Armalite elected to actually machine this muzzle brake on the end of the barrel rather than have a independent part. Yeah, it got them past all that regulations and so on for that 10 years, but to do anything with this, of course, that'd have to be cut back and threaded and so on. That's the only thing that's kind of a booger when you're trying to modify these. That brake is effective to some extent. It's not really loud, but it keeps your muzzle down. But it kind of sucks that you can't change your muzzle device on here or even suppress it, being something that is a gas piston rather than direct impingement.
Well, with it having an 18¼ inch barrel, it looks, and we haven't measured anything, but it looks like this probably could be cut off and the barrel threaded.
Yeah.
And you still stay within your legal 16-inch length.
You would, but I mean, if someone wanted to keep the gun original, that would kind of suck that you had to cut the barrel off just to do that. I mean, the production isn't really high on these guns, so I mean, doing something like that, or even doing this, modifying this, cutting that off to where this will not work on here anymore, that could change the value of the gun. But in some people's eyes, it may be more useful like this in this configuration it would be its stock configuration. Let's get into tearing this gun down. First thing you want to do, of course, is make sure it's not loaded. And back here on the back of the receiver, there's a place that you just push in and you rotate. So we'll use a bullet and I'll push this piece in and rotate that up. You got to make sure that you hold on to the back part of your spring assembly back here. See, it's got this little nub on it that locks into the back of the receiver. Now, here are your recoil springs and bolt guides, both, all in one piece. It's 2 springs, 2 guides welded to the back of that. Bring the bolt to the rear, take the charging handle out, take out the bolt, and as you'll see, it's got a bolt in this carrier that's a rotating locking bolt just like it is in an M16 or an AR-15, but this carrier is way different. You know, it doesn't have the need for the gas to come back here to do anything, so there's no gas key or anything like that. It's just a block of steel. Your firing pin is here, it's captive, and it's got a cam right here, cam pin that lets it rotate and lock and unlock. Now, one neat thing too is this recoil assembly here does more than just control the recoil of that bolt. The way that these go forward, it also retains your hand guards. So when you have that on there, you're actually retaining that upper hand guard with those 2 holes right there, with that recoil assembly. So that's kind of neat. And now we're exposing the gas piston system here. The way this one is, it's a short stroke gas piston. Gas comes up through a port, comes in contact with the piston here, drives it to the rear, comes in contact under here with the bolt, and this spring helps it reciprocate back into place. So it's just a short stroke piston. You know, taking it off is just, you know, bringing it back and getting it the whole system away from, if I can get my hand not get pinched here, bring it back and come off, and then you have another part of your piston system here, and this is just where your gases come off right there. So you've got a 3-part piston system, and you have a male fixture here for your gas to come through. So it's rather simple. Just to line that back up through there and put that back on. So I mean, it's not much different than any gas piston you see out there for an AR. Rather than most of those are just a 2-piece piston, this is a 3-piece, but this is also that system in its infancy. You know, this was designed back in 1963. All these people that have adapted this system to AR-15s and M16s have had, you know, 50 years or so to adapt this to those guns. So, you know, this was the next evolution in design, I think, after the M16, and it, you know, it didn't catch on with our military. It was adapted by a few foreign militaries, and the Japanese and the British used this design, not this gun, but this design to manufacture some of their military firearms. The SA-80 with the British, and the Japanese used this system to some extent with their military arms, which haven't been too many. But yeah, it's a unique system. It's something you don't see all the time, like ARs are everywhere. It's just something that's kind of a unique firearm. I think we're going to get it back together and do some shooting with it.
Definitely has a cool factor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One question that I have, it looks very similar to the AR-15 style trigger setup.
Mm-hmm.
And what about that? Is that
Well,
like that, or is that the same trigger?
This particular model, the AR-180B, uses an AR-15 fire control group. You know, so your hammer, trigger, disconnector, safety even, is from an AR-15. There are some differences because you don't have the same springs and detents and things that hold the safety in on this firearm that there is on the AR-15. So I mean, there's differences in the system and the way you break this down, but these pins are still held in by the hammer spring and the internal hammer spring, and the hammer spring going back to the pin that holds in your trigger and disconnector. So I mean, there are similarities. The magazine release is also from an AR-15. You know, so I mean, it's sharing some some parts and pieces, which would, make a little sense since they had those parts laying around. But, even though they used that, the gun is just a totally different creature. I've got 20 rounds of Agula 223 right here. Gonna put it in here and see if the old girl likes to be shot. Uh-oh, malfunction. Well, I don't know if this has ever been used with a 20-round magazine before, and truthfully, I've never used that one. We could chalk it up to the magazine, but I've got a thermold, and now I'm going to try it with a thermold 30-round magazine. Last round held open, and we're empty. Gonna let Terry try it out and see how he likes it.
All right, first I'm going to use a government mag with some Wolf 62 grain. All right, we have a malfunction here. It's a failure to feed. Lock that back. And the magazine's empty. Next, I'll try a Magpul Pmag.
What you shooting in it, Terry? What are you shooting in it?
That is more Wolf 62 grain.
Okay.
Seemed to do great with the Pmag. Getting a little warm.
What's your overall impression compared to an AR-15?
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, the recoil impulse is way different, and believe it or not, that brake's pretty effective. Keeps
Yeah.
it level.
Yeah. I still love AR-15s, but this is just a cool gun. It's it's lightweight. It's not unwieldy, and this is a lot more comfortable than I thought it was going to be. I thought this would be, it's got like a little bit of weird shape to me, but it feels pretty good in your hand.
In true AR-180 fashion, to go along with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator, and even the A-Team, they like to shoot their guns with their stocks folded. Let's give her a rip.
Yeah, show us what the Arnold would do.
Wow. That was fun.